Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We're your hosts. I'm Randy.
And I'm Joe.
This is episode 59 of our podcast, and the date is Tuesday, October 26th, 2021. What wonderfulness have you been up to, Joseph?
Working. Unfortunately, not playing. We got to coordinate that a little better.
Yeah, we need to get a schedule. I was hoping to play this weekend, but I think I got something else on my plate. So
yeah, we do.
Yeah, so we need to get jiggy here soon, make some plans like a schedule. But anyway, so we got any call-ins or emails?
We
or anything?
do have call-ins. We do not have any emails. Oh, well, actually, I'm a big fat liar.
Oh, Joe's trying to slide some emails past us.
Let's see here. It's not an email per se. It's a comment on we got on on the website. Let's see. Okay. Comment. So we talked about I believe it was last episode, where I missed some emails, and one of them was DM Dastardly Dad.
Yeah.
And he wrote back or commented on it's time to level up.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he's famous. I'm not sure how he is, but if you are famous, Dastardly, spread some of that fame this way.
Yeah, we like a little fame, just a little bit. I don't want too much. I'm too old for a lot of fame.
Anyway, he talks about Talislanta.
Best of all, no elves.
Right.
That was their tagline back in the day.
And apparently no levels. But they do have experience points, and they use them to increase skills and attributes to limit. Your hit points do not go up. So a good hit could mean instant death at any time.
Oh, sounds like a little Arneson going on there. Did you read that article I posted
yes,
about?
I did.
Got that from Silent Josh, sent that to me.
I'd actually been going through some old versions of D&D and come across different ways that they did hit points. An early version, they just had hits. You hit them like 3 or 4 times and they went down. So, yeah. But that's a war game type rules. That
was real early, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we have some what are these called? Messages? Yeah, we have some voicemail.
I think Joe might be tired.
A little bit.
Okay. Let's see what we got on tap here.
Ode man.
Sweet. Okay.
Turn on the sound. And here we go.
Action.
Talking about math in college, I actually have 2 bachelor degrees. Most people go, up, but I went parallel. First degree, I actually did take honors calculus as my required math. So to Joe's point, I took honors calculus to fill the required slot. So ended up getting an A. I had taken AP calculus in high school, so it wasn't that big a deal. And I would go on to successfully complete a degree in creative writing. Creative writing. So going back a few years later to get computer science, I had another slot to fill and took algebra.
Oh, wow. Algebra. Now, are you talking? Now, I wonder, Taylor, is that a modern algebra? Is that an advanced algebra, meaning like the study of point sets and ring theory and that sort of stuff? Or did you jump back and take like a college algebra class? Because if you did, man, that's pretty sweet. After you pass calculus, that becomes pretty easy.
Right.
So, but that's cool, man. That's Taylor. I had a feeling Taylor had some math chops. Just something about the way he speaks that make me think he's pretty darn logical. I think it was his boys in the background.
At least.
I think they're looking they want to be a part of the podcast.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, that's cool, Taylor. That's good. That's multiple degrees.
It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about orcs, You actually might like the Warhammer 40k orc. I don't know about fantasy, but I do know in the 40k lore, orcs are actually a fungus type creature. So they shed spores as they walk around, and they shed a lot of spores when they get killed. So planets that are attacked by orcs are plagued by primitive orcs long after the initial threat is dealt with, because they keep popping up in I guess spore fields. So the only solution, fire.
That is pretty cool.
There will be more on that later.
Okay.
I'm not reading out of the book for Call of Cthulhu right now because obviously I'm driving, but basically what they're talking about, a formal skill check, means the GM is called for the roll. So you know how some players like to roll dice without being asked to roll dice and kind of call their own checks? Oh, I'm going to listen for traps, roll. What do I hear? You know, the GM has to ask you to roll, and it's got to be, you know, kind of important. So I guess some GMs might say, you know, well, only these rolls count towards experience. But in the games I've played in, typically, pretty much any time you make a skill check in the game, that counts. And at the end of the game, you'll roll, and if you roll over your skill, it's a D percentile system. If you roll over your skill, then that skill will advance. It's like a D10, you know, roll D10 for that many points. That's the way I remember Call of Cthulhu working off the top of my head.
Okay. I got to comment. I've heard of this, and I think I've had players do that. I'm going to listen to the door, and they roll. Look.
Right.
You roll without me telling you to roll, it don't mean nothing. Nice waste. I hope you had fun rolling those dice. I mean, look, I guess I'm not that harsh, but something about that, I don't know. That's the DM's purview, dude. I get to decide when you roll. You don't just roll randomly because you want to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a that kind of stuff started in 3rd edition.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a topic. I think 3rd edition, as much as we loved it, it did its best to try to make, and it did. You could almost take the dungeon master out of the game if you didn't care about the story, and you could just have, as a group, you guys could kind of decide, we're going to have a effective party level encounter, 2 higher, 3 higher, 1 lower, and we're just going to have this and randomly roll, and then everything else could kind of happen. The combat could be run without the GM if you so were inclined. Didn't want to have any kind of, I think it's bland, but it can be done.
Right, because instead of having at the very least, an outsider as the DM to the party, deciding the actions of the monsters, which they could come up with a totally different set of actions, you know, within the scope of the monster and the situation. Then the players might say, oh, the monster moves here or goes there. I mean, you may have a bunch of fairly honest players, and they'll try to run the monster collectively as well as they can. But I think it's better that you have somebody outside that group do it.
I think it would be,
yeah. And same thing with the roles, you know, let the DM is the one that says, they have the say so.
Yeah. And just the calling for the roles. I mean, I don't, you know, it's probably just my old grognardiness that I'm just like, yeah, I would get annoyed by a player if he kept doing that. I try to make I make a diplomacy check. Slow your roll, homeboy. Literally.
Yeah. I wonder how much efficiency of play, people that are mindful of that, and the fact that we have such short sessions compared to the old days where we weren't, it's not like we were like, you know, laying around and every so often the DM would say some words and then we would do stuff, but we weren't in a rush. So maybe to make it efficient, because there's so much talk about making combat has to be fast. Everything has to be fast and efficient and happen in moments. And well, of course it does, because 3-hour sessions, 4-hour sessions or less. They were talking about 1-hour sessions. I haven't heard much about that lately, but Yeah.
Well, that was their initial run at 5e. They're saying you could play in 1 hour, and I'm with you. I'm heading back toward the 6-hour session. I'll actually, you know what? Let's have our next session be 6 hours.
Okay.
Let's plan to have a day where you're off, so you don't have to work, and let's play for 6 hours. Let's schedule 6 hours or more.
All right. I'm up for that.
Cool.
My next day off is Sunday, and then after that's Wednesday. So
Okay.
Sunday might be a challenge.
All right.
All right. Let's continue with Jason.
As for what are you going to increase in Call of Cthulhu playing a 20th detective or librarian or whatever, it's pretty much all the skills. So I think there are a couple skills you don't increase that way. I know Cthulhu Mythos doesn't increase that way, but there might be 1 or 2 other skills don't increase, but pretty much all the other ones do. So your library use would increase. Your, I forget all the names of skills, but detect, like where you listen at the door, hear noise, that would increase. Your handgun would increase. So anything you do, right? If you're fighting, those skills increase. If you're doing like perception-based things, those increase. If you have to make a roll for, a knowledge check, that increases. So so it depends how often the GM asks you to make the skill rolls. But anytime you're rolling, potentially, for the most part, that can increase at the end of the game. The rules might say end of the adventure, not game. I don't know.
A little bit of extra bookkeeping there. You probably have to have a little spot for, did you use it?
Yeah, I think you have the player have to keep track of it. And I mean, for me, if you were playing that, you'd have to keep track of your own. I wouldn't know every time you did something significant. But yeah, I mean, I think Jason's alluding to my comment about, I said something flippantly like, I don't know why your skills would increase in the game like that. I mean, I know that they do, and Jason makes a good point that they do. I'm just kind of thinking, but you know what? To be fair, we haven't heard from Andy Goodman in a while, but he's played long-term Cthulhu campaigns, and I think you would, if your character is surviving as an investigator of the mythos, you would get better at stuff. That makes sense. I just, I guess for me, when I think about I just imagine Cthulhu probably only enjoyable in sort of a one-shot or a very short campaign for me, but it's probably just me.
We also sadly live in a world where it's a lot of mediocre. So people don't have so Call of Cthulhu is modern, basically.
Yes.
So when you think of Call of Cthulhu, you think of modern people, and we reflect on current days, and you have some very super specialized folks, but the average person doesn't have a lot of different skills, and to think that they get better at things over time.
Well, I mean,
some
you do. I mean, I've been teaching for over 20 years, and I'd like to think I'm a better teacher than I was day one. I mean, I know that I am. I'm a better teacher than I was 10 years ago.
Right.
But it's been a long. But having said that, I think I'm sure in that game you're exceptional. I mean, and maybe they can correct. I would think your character is probably better than the average person. You're brave enough to go up against Cthulhu, so you got something going for you.
Right. Adventures are not supposed to be typical people.
Correct.
We've always done it at the end of each session in Call of Cthulhu, but it's possible the game actually says the end of each adventure. So it might be every, when you finish the full adventure. I don't know. But you don't advance that often, you die in that game. So you might as well do it each session.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
All right. That's it from Jason. And next up we have John from Red Dice Diaries.
Hey there guys, it's John here from the Red Dice Diaries. Gotta admit, I laughed at your do you need an art degree to get into a gallery skit at the start of your time to level up episode. I've actually got an art degree, I did a foundation and plus 4 years at university, and I've got to be honest, I fucking hated it. Although, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the social aspect of being at university, but for me, it took something I used to do and enjoy as a hobby, and it turned it into something that was work and drudgery. And it led to me actively not wanting to do much, if anything, art related, once I left. Now, part of the reason I'm leaving this rambly message is because we used to have talks from commercially successful artists, like who'd come into the university and talk about how they got started in their careers and stuff like that. And the one common thread that seemed to run between the career stories was, regardless of talent, the artist just happened to get lucky and some rich or influential person took a liking to their work. And then once they started buying it up, other people started buying it because of that. And that's how they made their money. And I pretty soon decided I wasn't going to risk my future on just happening to get lucky in the already oversaturated world of art. Maybe that was a mistake. Who knows? But there you go. It's the decision I made at the time. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the episode, guys. Catch you in a bit.
You know, there was something that why am I blanking on? Taylor from Clerics Wearing Mill, and John said Taylor did creative writing, and John Allen's talking about an art degree. There is a connectivity. I mean, most people think mathematics is just this cold, hard logic, but they're at high level math. When you're proving things, it is extremely creative. There is a high level creativity to even get started on some proofs. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was posed a challenge of a theorem that was true, that I had to create the proof on, that I had to prove it myself, and I would just stare at it, I'm telling you, for a couple of hours, getting nowhere. I had to have an inspiration point. And so there's a degree of creativity that is significant. So yeah, I think, but I get John. I mean, I always thought art was a very tough field to spend 4 years or more getting a degree in, or maybe even creative writing. That's pretty tough, you know. If you're thinking of, because I guess when I hear creative writing, I think someone's going to be a novelist, but I'm probably very narrow.
And then you have to get out there and get a job in it.
That's what I'm saying.
And make some money. I mean, it's one thing to get the degree, which is challenging in and of itself, and then get out there and try to make it work for you.
And I don't know if I heard John, if John Allan had mentioned in our podcast last time, or if I heard it, listen to his show. He said he used to, John, did you used to have a comic strip that you used to draw? Hopefully he'd answer that sometime. Yeah, I was wondering if he'd said that. I could be mixing up some podcasts, but anyway, I'm just wondering if I heard him say that.
Gotta say, guys, I love the idea of orcs popping up out of the ground. It's John again from Red Dice Diaries. Reminds me of Warhammer 40k, where orcs reproduce by constantly shedding these like almost invisible spores that eventually grow up into goblins and orcs and stuff like that. And they can effectively terraform a world given enough time, because like I say, the orcs are and all the other greenskins are constantly shedding these spores. It also makes them very difficult to get rid of, because these spores can lie dormant. So you can like kill all the orcs on a planet, think, yes, we've successfully taken it back from the greenskin menace, and then a few years later you start getting pockets of orcs and goblins and whatever popping up again from these dormant spores. And I think that could be a pretty interesting idea to port over into a fantasy game. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the episode, guys. Catch you in a bit.
Yeah, that sounds like something that could definitely fix that problem or that quandary we had of the orc babies. Because you could just say, there aren't any. They grow up savage and evil, just the way Joe likes them. Kill with impunity. Yeah.
Impunity.
Yeah, John and Taylor. That's great.
Those dang greenskins.
Yeah, there we go. Greenskins. We'll use that.
That's not problematic, is it?
Yes, and we like problems.
Oh, okay.
I'm a math teacher. I give problems out, so I like them. Oh, wait a minute.
Hey there, guys. John again from Red Dice Diaries. Just listening to you answering the call in about alignment languages. And I've got to say, I've always envisioned alignment languages as a bit like, like the dark speech of Mordor or whatever it's called in the Lord of the Rings films. It's obviously a language, but whenever people speak it, everything starts getting dark and ominous in the room. And there's obviously some sort of like supernatural or like otherworldly element to it. And I've always sort of imagined alignment languages a bit like that, where they're half a discrete language, but there's also probably some sort of like magical effect in there that makes it very difficult, if not impossible, for people of other alignments to speak or understand it. But that's just my 2 pence, loads of different ideas out there, I'm sure. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the episode. Catch you in a bit.
I wouldn't mind that being a thing in the game, but I wouldn't. It's not like every evil person is going to be able to invoke the black speech of Mordor equivalent for your world.
I was thinking in the movie when Gandalf did that, things did get kind of dark and ominous. And everybody had a hard time even hearing
Imagine
him
10 or
say it.
15 people all speaking it at the same time. It would be totally oppressive. So you wouldn't just have everybody being able to do that. I think you would have to, there would have to be something, you would have to speak the alignment language and have some other quality to you as a person.
Yeah. What if you were a high priest of, some dark god?
Yeah.
You would know the dark speech. And maybe you would then, when you speak it, you sort of speak to the soul of the other creatures who aren't quite as evilly evolved as you. And so the alignment tongue is something you feel as much as you understand and interpret. So the lowly minions, when Saruman speaks to the Uruk-hai, he can speak in the dark speech and they just kind of feel it. You feel me? Yeah, we feel you. Yeah.
But you wouldn't necessarily always have to, for all the alignment languages, you wouldn't necessarily have to go black speech, Tolkien black speech, for that to be a thing. You just figure some other sort of effect.
I think if we were actually going to use it in Mudsword, I would be inclined to have maybe a black speech and then word of the light. I don't know about neutral, but maybe just a generic good and the evil.
Yeah, neutral wouldn't make any sense.
No, and I think they would speak to your heart and soul. They wouldn't, and only the rare person could actually, verbalize it. Most people would just feel it.
About the only thing I would think neutrality would come into play would be to get everybody to calm down, maybe. Yeah, perhaps so.
Lotus position. Begin speaking. Oh, is that it?
That is it.
Sweet. John, Taylor, and Jason, the usual suspects who we love hearing from.
Yes. And we have links to all of their podcasts, and
everybody should listen to all
everybody's stuff is linked in the show notes. So
yeah. Okay. So we got this little article from Silent Josh, Arneson's hit points. Did you get a chance to read that article?
I did.
So the idea, it's interesting that that was kind of the beginning of, according to that article, kind of the beginning of some of the rift between him and Gary. So it was early on. He wanted hit points to be more set in stone as soon as you generate your character. And then you become harder to hit because you're a better character, not because you have more hit points. I read the like 3 comments in the, what is that called? The comment section. Sorry, Joe doesn't read comments.
I'm above the comments.
Right. But they did make a point. I thought it was good. That I think you could take either interpretation, where Gygax's more hit points are actually a part of your skill, your ability to dodge, your toughness, your stamina, kind of a more abstract thing. But you had mentioned, what did you mention earlier about a one shot of the guy? Who was the guy that sent the email or the comment on the website? Something Dad?
Oh, yes.
Dastardly Dad. Dastardly Dad talked about Talislanta, how you have a set number of hit points, what that means. So in I would think in Arneson's situation, if he had crits, you could probably get smoked at high level pretty easy.
Yeah, but in Arneson's view, your essentially your armor class, your defenses went up, your hit points did not. So you're harder to hit, but if you were harder to hit and you hit other things easier. However, to me, where that kind of might backfire is when you go up against powerful opponents.
Mm-hmm.
If your powerful opponents can hit you as easily as perhaps you could hit you,
right,
then it kind of self-defeating in a way.
Yeah, it seems like you would eventually run into some issues there, but you do with hit points too. I mean, you could say, well, it gets kind of ridiculous at 20th level when you got 300 hit points, and though they can hit you, it still takes 9 hits to take you down. But that wasn't true in 3rd edition. I mean, in 3rd edition, if you built your character right, you could take people down in one shot.
Right.
So armor class was kind of a in 3.0 armor class, but if you allowed characters
at high level,
you had high level to build with impunity, armor class was not even a barrier at all.
Not really.
Yeah. I think it would be, I think that article, which is interesting, and we have the link on it, is it talks about he thought a range of 1 to 36 was kind of like pretty good for hit points. I don't know. He had some little formula he used. I think it would have been interesting if just a what if situation. I wonder if Arneson had lived longer, not lived longer. What if he had some backing some way and his version of D&D had branched off and had nearly as much advancement and additions as Gary's. And if it had been Blackmore and Advanced Blackmore second edition, Blackmore third edition, I wonder, and it would have been interesting that it'd been very close games, but there might have been some real significant differences in how play turned out. Just if hit points were to be believed, but there's other things too about Dave, which I don't know much about. I think he probably would have changed a lot of things that would have been very different.
Yeah, there's no telling exactly. I mean, there is an early version of Blackmore in the for use with the white box sets, right? The first version of Blackmore, and apparently I didn't look at it too closely, but I was looking at it the other night. They use slightly different rules.
Yes.
So
yeah, I've seen that. There is something called was it the first fantasy campaign that was published in 77, and that became a bigger thing. Judges Guild published it later on too, and I got a PDF look at that, and it's pretty different from D&D. Not massively, but enough to be interesting. So
that's Arneson's work.
Arneson's development. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You remember what it was called?
The first fantasy campaign.
That's what it's called?
Yeah, that's what it was called.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think historically speaking, it was the first campaign ever published, like full campaign in 77. So that was before, it was pre-Greyhawk.
And that was produced by?
I think Judges Guild did it for Arneson.
Well, Greyhawk was also a supplement for
correct
a white box supplement,
but it was a little booklet.
Yeah, a little booklet.
A little booklet. I could be wrong. I think it might have been the first real fantasy campaign, but that's what he called it. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a shame. There's probably a lot of arguing there, and too bad they couldn't have. Well, maybe they had different visions. Maybe they needed to split.
They probably did.
Yeah.
I mean, they had different visions, and they weren't willing to back down.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, they both thought they were. But even the hit point thing alone, you can make a good argument. I mean, I think both of them are valid ways to play fantasy games. Hit points don't have to be this abstract number that keeps building and building as you level to give you this buffer protection. It could be your armor and your natural ability at higher level lets you dodge and weave, and you still have, and hit points are truly physical. So even a 20th level fighter has 22 hit points. That's his body, how much damage he can take. A couple of longsword strikes and he's dead. He mostly gets missed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that would change the way damage would work too. So
sure.
People would just not really you wouldn't be rolling a lot of dice when you did damage.
And you couldn't have massive modifiers.
No.
I mean, to damage. You couldn't be like, third edition, you couldn't have a D8 plus 26.
Right.
And then when you did hit, you'd be killing whatever you hit. And I wonder if his monsters similarly had less hit, but maybe not. In that idea, monsters could definitely have more hit points. Because I don't think a dragon would need to be capped at 36 hit points. He could easily have 72 or 100.
Right. Because of just being a dragon, really big and everything.
He's really big. He could take a lot of sword blows before he goes down. And not many would be telling. They would bounce off his scales and stuff. So yeah, sure.
Although with Smog, it only took one arrow.
Yeah, novel versus game. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. What are the Contest of Champions? How's our YouTube subscriptions going, Joe?
We are at 96.
Dude,
we are on the cusp.
So close. Look, dudes. Inferno, baby. Sweet battle games of the Abyss. Man. Out of the Abyss, 5e. These are your choices if you win. Sign up, last 4 people. Maximum X crawl, Pathfinder version of X crawl. The setting is beautiful. Even if you don't like Pathfinder, Max, you would love that setting.
Maybe not. I don't know
Maybe
how
not. He
much
might hate it.
I don't know how much he is into Gonzo stuff.
No, he probably wouldn't like it. He wouldn't like X-Crawl. No.
Yeah, 'cause it's modern. It's a weird mixture of modern and fantasy at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe and I, well, Joe was on more, I was on there pretty long. We stayed pretty late. We were on Legion of Myth this past, was it Friday?
Friday. They have
Friday.
they call it the Friday chill stream.
Yeah, just talking stuff. I mean, it was really cool. It was good for me to I finally got on there. I loved hearing all the different people's viewpoints. And who was the guy from California? Which one is he?
Oh, that might be OG. There's two, I think. Maybe even Bruce Lombardo might also be from California.
Yeah, there's painting. So yeah, there's another guy too. It was a good time. We had a lot of good discussions. Definitely check them out. They have good discussions. So I think we want to talk a little bit about the Wizard Tower games.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, there's this. They got Wizard Tower Games, which is in I'll say, I don't mean cahoots, but they're working with TSR, the new TSR, and they got a threatening email this week from, I think, well, you read it closer than I did.
It's anonymous.
Anonymous. We don't know who it is. And they were basically telling them they need to not be working with TSR, or they're gonna cancel them through social media blasting, I guess.
Right. I mean, it's just weird. I mean, the weird part is they, I mean, it's one thing to not like their tactics, or you may not like TSR that they've, the new TSR 3 or whatever some people are calling it. They changed the date for their convention twice, and now it's on the same day as Gary Con.
Yeah, and they're in the same town.
They're in the same town, same day. So that's kind of weird. Why would you do that?
Feels a little shady.
You know, who knows? You may just have some inept planners over there.
But in the end, all that threats and stuff is just ridiculous. I would also direct folks to, what is it? Your dungeonisracist.blogspot.com by Avenger Satanis. He has a nice parody of that letter he found in his infinite research skills that was sent out to some random gamers. It's pretty funny. It's a little rude, but it's funny.
Yeah.
I hope TSR and Wizards Tower just tells those guys to go take a hike
or ignores them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have a link to this. It's on Twitter where this email was posted, and they have some stuff redacted in here, probably some names of people that Wizards Tower, or what is it? Wizard Tower Games.
Yeah,
Wizard Tower Games didn't want public from the email, but apparently they can't. They're not great at the English.
the writers of the email.
Right. And instead of saying Justin Lanasa, they said just Lanasa.
Him.
Just Lanasa, the CEO.
Yeah.
So only Lanasa has a very checkered past. I guess only him, nobody else.
Yeah, no one else in the whole world. That's pretty sad. Oh well. And there was another guy. Who's the one that does the Evil DM video YouTube podcast thing?
DM Dave.
Unscripted.
Yeah, I don't know the names.
I haven't watched it too much, but I mean, I think he was listed too. So whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They went on a video vlog of the Evil DM, who himself is a TSR paid thing.
Ooh, okay.
Thing?
Huh? Paid?
Yeah. It says of Evil DM that he is a TSR paid thing. Whatever that means.
The pay is good. The pay is really good. I wouldn't mind being a paid thing.
Right. And you will sadly understand what it can be like to be the current thing on Twitter.
Yeah. So here's the deal. I don't have a Twitter account. Not hearing you. Don't care.
Yeah.
I think businesses should get off Twitter completely.
And one of the weirdest things in this very short email of a lot of weirdness We cannot allow TSR to gain creatives.
Cannot allow them to gain.
Can you stop them?
Apparently they think they can. I mean, I think they're going to say things like TSR bad, don't join them. If you do, we'll boycott you too, creatives. And I'm just kind of like, if I were a creative, I'd be like, so I mean, that's really what they need to do. They need to literally just say so and move on. But people will get nervous probably. Somebody will. Oh, Joe is
sharing it because I am a sharing sort. We'll also have a link to this in the show notes, like I already said.
Yeah.
I can't make it any bigger. So if you're looking at this on YouTube, you may not be able to read it very well, but we'll have a link. Check out the link and laugh, because this is just, in my opinion, hilarious.
Yeah, I think Tinkar had a comment on it too. And Tinkar's no fan of TSR3, but he thought this was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, because it is. Okay. I think, is that all we want to jabber about here in the Outlands?
Yeah, apparently I have a drinking problem here. Can't get it all in my mouth.
That's all right. Okay, so let's shall we boogie on to the main topic?
Let's press on.
So I was inspired. We were inspired by the idea. We've been talking about leveling up. And way back when, I think it was last season, we had a episode on high level play or something about why not play the whole game. And I thought I would kind of bend this a little bit. And we're going to take a little play on words. Joseph had it was, how high is too high to play?
Yeah. You know, I had thought that it would be funny for us to start out the episode by saying, hey, this is a special episode of Biggest Geekest where we're going to talk about weed. And then, but I totally forgot to do that. So that's because I'm no good.
You seem like you're a little tired today. I'm going to try to get you.
I'm a little tired.
I'm going to get you jazzed though, baby, because we're talking about high level play.
High level is good stuff.
You love that crap. The focus is on D&D. And so what I thought we would do is kind of, these are ideas that I had, and they're not fully mine. I've seen them in other places, but I ripped these off real quick. It didn't take me 10 minutes to do this outline. And some of you may see that in actual results. But I think if you're going to play high level, and we're going to talk about differences later on in the editions, but for D&D in particular, you got to prepare to play high level at the beginning. You got to plant the seeds. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
So if you're going to play a game where characters are going to get to, you know, and I guess we should define this. I consider in D&D, I don't consider it 8th to 10th level high level. I think that's 8 to about 12 is mid-level.
Mm-hmm.
And 12 is when you're starting to get some power. Anything beyond 12 in most versions of D&D, you're at high level. And you can do some, 6th level spells. You can do some plane traveling. You can teleport a couple times a day if you're a wizard. So you got some power, some real high level, some real staying power. And the characters other players do too. So if as a DM, you're going to start a campaign, whether you're going to start at 5th level or 6th level and play higher, or if you're going to say, look, we're going to get through all 20 levels of 3rd edition, right? We're going to play it. So I think early on, you got to, even when the characters are even their low level, let them know there's some really powerful stuff. Even something as simple as like, there is a massively gargantuan ancient green dragon that lives in this old forest. No one's heard about him in years, but no one has ever been able to plunder his horde. And the few adventuring bands that have survived, have a few of them who have survived and come back. They said, yeah, you don't want to mess with this guy. And so you can keep teasing that. And at mid levels, you can have some of his minions work. His name's Arithmax, the green, the great green. People can start talking about you beat the high level orcish barbarian lord. And he's like, yes, we serve Arithmax, the green. And, they get to hear about this. And then when they hit 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th level, eventually the dragon shows his ugly head, right? And when they get mid-level, plant even higher seeds. I mean, like maybe he summons creatures from the outer planes to defend him. He's a magic user too. And so, or maybe he guards a portal to the outer planes. I think the planes themselves kind of deserve a little talking to, but a discussion in this concept. But I think you got to prepare it early so players know there's some big stuff out there, much bigger than your 11th level characters.
Oh yeah, you need to. You probably, if it's not already a thing for your group to do, as in
Yeah.
play to high level,
Yeah.
the DM should. It should be a discussion at some point. How far you guys are going to play? How long is the campaign going to run?
Right.
And as long as the DM, because the DM is the one that has to make everything.
Right.
He's the one who's got to sign off on it going high level.
Oh, for sure. And I think
no matter what, even if the players, it doesn't matter how hard the players want to go high level, if the DM's not up for it, it's not happening.
No, and what I'm saying, talking to the GMs that are interested in this, my point here is you gotta prepare for it, so that don't just all of a sudden go, well, we're high level now, and there was never anything talking even about dragons existing. Now all of a sudden there's 4 colossal red dragons bearing down on us because we're all 19th level.
Right.
So yeah, or a discussion of 4 centuries ago there was a Githyanki invasion. All the portents are right. It's time for another one.
Right. So the lore of your world needs to support the idea of the levels that you're going to.
Yeah, I'm not saying I got to sit down when you guys are 2nd level and I got to take Arithmax, whatever his name is, and create his lair, decide all his background, tell his 4,000 years of history, build the dragon. He just needs to be. It'd be nice to drop those little seeds and plant them early, so they're not totally sideswiped. Though you can do that too. You can surprise them. Surprise your local lord. The one you've been sending on adventures forever and ever. He's actually not from this world at all. He's from the city of Sigil, and he's been here in exile. And then you can have a political game where you go to the city of doors and things get interesting when you're, if you want to wait till 12th, 11th, 13th level and go do that.
Which is probably a good idea.
Probably it is. I made a comment about understanding characters. I think this, and again, my perspective is a lot from the DM side, but it's also the player side. If you're going to play to 16th level, you better be ready for spells like Maze, where the wizard casts 1 spell, you make a saving throw. If not, you're trapped kind of in this little world within, that you can't get out of, kind of a mental prison. But you're physically gone, aren't you? With the old maze?
Yes.
Yeah, or he's going to throw up spells like Odaluke's Resilient Sphere, and he's going to freeze everything in a certain radius, and he's going to do crazy damage. The rogue is going to back attack, and he's going to do as much damage or more than a fighter when he crits. And he's going to be super sneaky, and he's going to have like 98% chance to move silent and hide in shadows. Not much is going to see him.
Right.
So my point is, you got to be prepared for what the players can do. So you got to look at that player's handbook from a DM and know what the players are going to bring at you, at least a little bit. Not that you got to counter everything, but more importantly, I think of this one good piece of advice. I think I mentioned this on Legion of Myth. It was years ago, I think during 2nd edition. I want to give the credit to Tracy Hickman. He said, when you write high-level adventures, don't try to, we can't, we used to be pretty classy, get an adventure for high level. You can't teleport in this area. This area has been shut off from teleport. You can't scry in this area. It's been shut off from scry. I think as a DM, I think you're better. You can do that sometimes, make that rare, but I think you should anticipate it and force the players to need to do it. Here's this keep that's in the shape of a silver sphere. How do you get in? There's no entrances, none. What? Yeah. You're going to need to scry to be able to see in there and then teleport. And of course, whoever's created this strange looking spherical keep has got defenses to be ready when you pop in. Maybe he'll have 6 or 8, Labrizu demons to greet you in the room when you show up. So
yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, but then then the fighter pulls out his +5 Vorpal and it's Schnickersnack and 2 of them are dead. Right. But that's what you got to anticipate as high level. And then the hallway down the road's got 6 or 8 iron golems that are waiting, and they appear as stone statues. They're actually iron golems, are a powerful illusion. And when the players walk by, they all breathe. You expect the rogue to be figuring that crap out.
Right.
Magic. So you set challenges. When you start doing this, you set challenges for high level play. This is connected to the next part. I think there's limitations on the rules though. When we played 3rd edition, and we're going to talk about tonight, dig this setting, we're going to use one of my own settings that Joe played a big chunk of called Seven Spheres. And when you get to a certain point, at least in third edition, and I think it's well before 20th, if the characters and the players are building their characters with a little bit of power in mind, without even being Monty Hall, standard monster fights aren't much of a challenge.
No, and I can't remember what version was it, third perhaps, where they didn't have, it might have even been second, but second or third, one of the creators of the game, or one of the designers, was saying once the characters are like 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th level, nothing in the books are going to be a challenge for them.
I think that was one of the creators of Pathfinder. What was his name? I think he's still there, but he said that the 15th level characters were the highest that any monsters in the bestiary were actually built to challenge players. Meaning if you get, and that's why most of their adventure paths go 1 to 15. That's wasn't uncommon early on when we played. We were there for the first 10 or 15 adventure paths. We didn't play them all, but I collected a lot of them. And they usually went to about 15th level and stopped because the characters were so awesome that there wasn't much for them, which is kind of funny because the game goes to 20,
right,
at a minimum.
Right, and the with characters throwing around effects that can deal up to or maybe multiple hundreds of points of damage, depending on circumstances, or crits and whatnot, or a monster. Well, I think they just don't plan enough encounters.
Well,
they plan a set of encounters, and this is sufficient. And then you have your 15th level party going there, and they're like, okay, this was not a challenge at all.
Well, just think about, and there are a lot of creatures that are immune to fire, but first edition wizard, if you're 15th level, your fireball does 15d6 damage.
Right.
And you're casting what? You could cast 3, 4, 5 of those in a day.
Sure.
Not to mention your delayed vast fireball. There's no caps.
Right.
Your magic missiles are boss.
Yeah.
So you got to think about the limitations of the rules. That is, I got monsters in the monster manual. I mean, I remember in first edition, the dragons were pitiful, like 88 hit points for a great ancient red worm. But even Asmodeus was like 299, 399 hit points. Hold on for a second. Let me grab that. I got my
those first edition monsters had low hit points.
Yeah, and so
at the upper end.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at a red dragon, max 11 hit dice. Their damage is decent. You think a Marilith, they call it a type 5 demon, or a Baylor.
A Baylor, right.
8d8 plus 8 hit points.
Yeah, that's not that much.
No, it's literally.
What was their armor class though?
-2.
Yeah, once you get up into the double-digit levels, that's not a challenge at all.
Dude, Yanagu, the Demon Lord of Knolls, -5 AC. That's good.
That's hard, yeah.
100 hit points. Now, here's a kicker, to be fair. Magic resistance. 80%.
Oh boy.
Baylor, 75%. And in first edition, you didn't get to adjust for your level. In second edition, they made it so if you were above every level above 11th, you drop magic resistance by 5%. But yeah, so that was a balancing factor. Asmodeus, 199 hit points, -7 AC, 4 to 14 damage, 1 attack around. Of course, I'm ignoring the fact that he has a staff that does all kinds of crazy stuff.
And his completely blown out of the water psionics.
Yes, 366 attack and defense mode. Oh yeah, all of them. He had all attack and defense modes. And homie had 90% magic resistance.
Yeah.
So your wizards were useless. Your clerics were useless. You weren't damaging him with any spells.
No, you'd have to cast spells that supported the party.
Yeah.
Or hid you in a box somewhere where Asmodeus couldn't see you.
Yeah. Hey, throw yourself inside a blade barrier.
Yeah.
Hemispherical blade barrier. So I guess there was some, but we're talking demon lords and archdevils, and we're only talking 15th level.
Right.
Okay. I mean, your standard, a pit fiend, -3 armor class, 65%. The magic resistance was a helping thing.
Yeah.
That would help. If you kept it that helped make monsters last a little longer in first edition.
Right.
And you had spell resistance in third edition. In second edition, you had magic resistance, but that got dropped. So if you're really going to play really high level, say a 20th level wizard, he's dropping magic resistance by 45%, 5% per level above 11. So even Asmodeus is now at 45%. Now you're talking.
Right.
You might take a shot with your meteor swarm. You might take a shot with your chain lightning.
Especially if you add in a backup spell.
Yeah. Well, especially you got 3 or 4 other characters. Oh, back in the day, might be talking 6, 8, 9 characters in the group.
Right.
And if they're all 15th level, but
no, Asmodeus would summon every demon or every devil he could, and he would stay in the background and hide and not do anything until oh, you're almost dead. Well, let me make you all the way dead. Oh, there's your soul's right there. Oh, it's mine now.
True.
If you're fighting him in his home.
But we're absolutely talking about the pinnacle of, and those aren't just monsters. Those are archdevils.
Right.
Those were in some campaigns now, in some versions of the D&D, Asmodeus was a greater god.
And you're not going to turn the corner and face Asmodeus, even at 15th level. So by the time you reach him in some campaign, you've probably depleted a good amount of your resources already.
And I think if you're playing smart, the Lord of the Nine Hells, he's not turning around the corner and rolling initiative. He's not planning to fight you. He may not be planning to fight you.
No.
He may have you run through all this gauntlet and barely alive. You're like, oh my God, he's going to kill you. I don't want to kill you. We don't have to be enemies, and then play his little game.
Right.
Right. But I mean, what if it's Orcus? Now he's going to want to kill you.
Yeah.
But then again, we're talking. So they used to talk about, well, go to the abyss and fight this. I think that's kind of unless you're playing Rule Cyclopedia 30th level dudes. I don't think that's not a good scenario, a good type of, I don't say it's not a good type of play, but it's a once in a campaign style. It might be a campaign ending story.
Yeah, you're not jumping down in the hells or the abyss every day, every time you play as a 15th level character. That's an option.
So you have your characters. So your wizard builds his tower, the cleric builds his church, the fighter builds his keep, the rogue has his guild, and they do that for a while. You play political intrigue. Players may get bored. So you do some crazy adventures on the plains, and they're 20th level, and you want to keep playing them. So I think with the rules, sometimes you got to push things. And I thought second edition, especially near the end in the Planescape box set called Hellbound, they brought this idea of wizard devils and wizard demons. And you basically just add, this is not new now, but it was in second edition, add character levels, wizard character levels to, a pit fiend. So now he's a 10th level wizard. Or they had another name for it. What the name was. Instead of making them a wizard, they kind of dabble and they could change their special abilities. So that instead of their implosion fireball, it's an implosion ice ball. Or instead of implosion, it's Abidazim's horde wilting. They could literally change their natural abilities. So that sort of stuff was just encouraging you to mess with the rules. And I think at higher levels, DM, without screwing the players, you have to mess with the rules.
Sure.
And once characters get past a certain
not
level.
only do you have to mess with them, but you really need to know them well.
Yeah, you do. You can't be, we talked about trying to do one shot. We've mentioned several times our 20th level Pathfinder, 10th epic level, 10 mythic levels, one shot we played at Cabin Con, and it was fun in quotations, but it just left something to be desired.
Yeah, we just jumped into it without really playing through it.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't as prepared as I thought I could be.
Yeah.
Your 1-2 punch was way too good for anything I had ready. And it wasn't like you guys did anything fantastically crafty. You just shape changed into a dragon and started casting spells.
Yeah.
I mean, that's obvious. Duh.
Why wouldn't the wizard do that if they could?
Yeah. And had I figured some way to counter that, that might have been cool. And you'd have been scrambling to think of something. And if the fighters just came in there at full attack, 2,000 damage, And I figured some way to counter that. They might have been scrambling, but I think it was really hard not knowing it. I think high level play is hard to jump into. I think it almost requires a progression.
Right.
You have to get to know the rules and know when to break them and when to just know how they work. What about limitations of players? And I made a comment, how bad do you want it? Not all players are, and not just not liking it, but if you play like our Seven Spirits we're going to talk about, that was a literal 3-year campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to be down for the duration. Unless you're talking about current modern D&D, when you can probably get to 20th level, over a long weekend, maybe. I mean,
I know, but
I mean, you can get high, you can gain levels pretty fast, considering a lot of people like milestones, and as long as you have your butt in the seat, you're going to make your level. And
story awards, story levels. So you reach a cool point in the story, a milestone in the story, everybody levels up.
Right. I think if you're going to be down with high level, you need to take your time to get there, so that you understand as a player. I want to take my time. I want to understand my character, the game world, the setting, and the rules too, because the players need to know the rules very well too, because you can't be sitting there and hemming and hawing about what you're getting ready to do. If you're playing high level characters, you need to be a high level player. Right.
That's an interesting point. I'm not sure I put that on there, but that would fit in here. Not all players are high level players.
No,
they won't put the time in. I think it's hard to be a wallflower, but we had a couple in our Seven Spheres game. It's hard to be a wallflower type player. And I'm not blasting wallflower players, but you don't really know what your character can do. And so if it comes to a point where they need you to do something, you can't just be, well, I just stab them with my dagger. I get it as +4 and you're a rogue, but you're not sneak attacking. You're not back attacking. You're not doing much of nothing. You literally just wasted your turn.
Right.
Why don't you do something cool with one of the cool magic items you have, one of the cool abilities you have, move into position for a really sweet sneak attack, use your sash that lets you teleport across the battlefield twice a day, I think
Right.
players have to know what they're in for, and they got to really want it. I mean, because I think like you and I are talking about, we're going to run through levels 1, 4, 5, maybe I'll play to 7 pretty quickly, maybe. And then definitely 1 through 4, we're going to barrel through that in the Mudsword play test, but we got to slow it down because Mudsword is a constant, and Mudsword is going to be harder to play high level because we're constantly fidgeting with it.
Right.
I got a comment here on understanding the motivations of your PC. I think those you have to be, and not just, I'm not talking from an acting viewpoint, but don't you think we kind of touched on it last time, Bolsavar at first level, his motivations, you might have a high-minded goal. I got an 18 intelligence wizard. I want to become the greatest wizard in all the realm. Okay, that's cool. But you're going to have smaller goals along the way. They're going to fit your level.
Right.
I want to find out what the bugbear champion who is controlling this big bugbear tribe, what he's got hidden in there, because there was a wizard that went there and his party went a few years ago and they never came back. And this wizard was pretty good. And I want to find out where his spellbook is.
And a player, and this is going to speak to some folks that are new to our podcast and give us a lot of praise. The players need to be able to step back from their own potential goals for their characters, if you have any, and be willing to bend your efforts to what the setting and the campaign entail. So instead of being hell-bound on being the best dang fire sorcerer ever, you might need to step a couple of steps back and go in a slightly different direction, depending on the how the campaign runs. So Max over at Legion of Myth, he will often cite this comprehend languages, right? Stop having every level played out and not deviating from it for any reason, even though the campaign would be much better suited if you would just comprehend languages and be an interpreter on some level.
Mhm.
So that's a great point. You can't be so selfish, or you can. The campaign will go a particular way, but it'll go better for everybody if you're not that selfish. I'm kind of an individualist, but I also like the group to win because it's better for me.
Yeah, and I think and also I think it's fun to watch. I think sometimes we talked about, my wife who likes to turn over every rock in every room. It's good to let other people do their thing. I mean, if you guys are 11th, 12th level and you're focused on being the best fire sorcerer, but the adventures you've been going on is for the paladin to impress his church by completing all these quests and then nobly giving up certain amounts of gold and stuff to the poor people, so he can build up the reputation of this poor religion that is really good and has even helped your fire sorcerer. Even at low levels, he was knocked to 0 hit points. A cleric healed him. He was poisoned, and a cleric saved his life. And if you just forget that crap and go, I want to go up, I don't care about that, I want to go to the ancient tower of so and so to get the gem of ultimate fire. It's like, okay, I get that you do, but can we complete this? I mean, can you have it? You know what? My character feels a little bit of an obligation to the paladin and his faith.
Right.
Let's help him out. That gem's probably not going anywhere unless the DM's a douche, or if it does, he'll tell me where it went.
Right.
I'll have some way of finding out. So you don't have to lose your motivations, but sometimes you have to delay gratification.
Correct.
But that's the beauty of high level too, though. Everybody can be gratified.
Yeah.
Every character can get at some point his time in the spotlight,
because it's going to be a long campaign.
Yeah.
And you might get multiple chances to get a good spotlight time, or you might be just for the party and just support everybody in there and be the support guy and just do that the whole time, and you could just feel good about supporting, because some people are just like that.
And my wife likes playing clerics because they are support characters. Mm-hmm. She wants to protect and heal. She likes paladins, but you could play a rogue who always seems to be, I've saved Volcivar 5 times. There was this bugbear when we were going to the bugbear champion's lair. He had a little sneaky bugbear because they're known for being sneaky. He was going to backstab Joe when he had 2 hit points, but I was hiding in shadows and I nailed him first.
Right.
And then one time the paladin was low on hit points, was being poisoned, and I went in there by a snake and I sucked the poison out of his wound. We had that kind of discussion before. So you can be the guy that's kind of even though maybe you were thinking, my guy wants to be a great guild master. Maybe after time, especially doing so many adventures with the church, think about how the adventures that you've done might change your own character's motivations, because they could.
Oh, yeah.
That fire gem's not that important to me. What's important to me is to bring the light of this religion to the world, because we are in a dark, dark world and the evil overlord is bearing down on everybody. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we have to be prepared to change up because it's a long haul.
Yeah.
You can't have things written in stone and expect that to go well over the long haul.
No. And I think the DM too, it means that, and if the DM forgets what your character's goal is, like if he mentions at 3rd level, there's the great gem of fiery power in this tower, and fiery power of the tower. And if he mentions that, but it's guarded by, a dozen wraiths, and you guys are 3rd level, you're not going there initially. But when you get 8th, 9th level, you said, hey, let's go there. Remind him, what about that? Oh, yeah. He goes, my guy really wanted to do that. And the DM needs to have that comment, because I don't know about my other DMs. I'll make stuff up on the fly while you're playing as long-term goals. There's this thing. You can't get it now. The players know they can't get it now, so I can talk it up now. And then I can forget about it if the players don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to remind the DM too,
Sure.
And this, we've talked about it a little bit with the characters' abilities, but I really want to focus on this next one, the power of magic. I think that's kind of the key at high level. Not just, knowing what your characters can do, what they can do, but how magic can change campaigns. When that wizard gets to 17th level in 1st edition and is casting 9th level spells, he's time stopping, baby. And that's going to win some battles for him.
Oh yeah.
he might cast wishes that change the setting as you know it. You know, he may have massive changes. He might cast mass domination and change the political sway of some realm.
He could just, and this is a spell that I harp on. Maybe it's a spell that it may be too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's I can't remember.
Magic jar.
Magic jar.
Yeah.
Magic jar. You can run around, use a magic jar, and just cause all kinds of chaos. You can probably topple a kingdom.
Oh, you could, and even at a mere 9th level, and that's I think every edition of D&D you get magic jars a 5th level spell, and most of the editions it's super powerful. So, and here's the thing: I mean, be ready, DMs. Here's what's going to happen. You can say, well, his body is vulnerable. All right, he's going to talk to his companions and say, look, I'm going to do this, this, and this. We're going to get into the king's treasury. We're going to get this, and they're like, the fighter's like, I'll guard you, and the rogue's like, I'll guard you. And the cleric's like, sure. He's a god of a neutral, good god of, or neutral. He's a neutral god, a neutral, lawful neutral god of something, or maybe chaotic neutral. Maybe he's the favorite alignment.
Or you're toppling an evil kingdom.
Correct. Even better. Then
Yeah.
they can all be good aligned.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's do it. Yeah, I'm going to dominate his seneschal, who's his best friend. He's going to go in there, and I'm just going to do all kinds of crazy. And you will, because I mean, especially that's at 9th level. What if your characters decide to do that once they're 15th level?
Right.
So they come back to a small duke, and you're like, we're going to fix your little red wagon now, because we're bad enough. We could walk in and just destroy you, but that's cold blooded. We're going to work from the inside out and change everybody's mind about things. And even if they have a good intention, but Magic Jar brings up a lot of, if we're thinking in modern times, it could bring up some real issues about principles and things.
Oh, sure, because you're invading somebody's body,
taking it over, forcing their spirit out into it's in the magic jar in the gem. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a violation. Yeah. And if that duke's a tough fighter, I believe how the rules work, don't you get his fighting ability and your spellcasting ability? No, maybe you don't.
I think you get his hit points. You may not get his fighting ability specifically, but
still, most 9th, 10th, 11th wizard, 11th level wizard would be happy to switch with an 8th or 9th level fighter for hit points.
Yeah, just for hit points.
Just for hit points. And then you're still casting spells and you're in armor. Well, you have to get armor, but that's different.
Well,
I think that's,
if planned right, you could cause all kinds of mischief. You may not even need to do anything offensive.
And another piece of advice I would give DMs, if the players surprise you with this in the session, you can take a break and try to figure out a way to counter, to make it more challenging for them. I don't say just cheese them and counter everything. I say just play it. And you know what? Give them the win.
Sure. Let
them just completely dominate that session. And then after they do it, think about the consequences. And make sure that you come back, and if they're maybe they have a perfect plan, maybe they totally get it, good for them. But when they try it again, you're ready now. You've seen how it works. I mean, as I have a little comment there, at really high level, he who casts time stop first wins. So you better be ready for that spell, particularly once characters are 17th, 18th level, and let them win the first or second time they do it. Then maybe there's some counters to that. Put them in an anti-magic zone.
That's what I was thinking.
And do all kinds of stuff. Put them in, send them across the plains, and they're traveling through the realm of the god of time. And he says, only I control time. No one else.
But if there's a magic defense within the Grand Duke's chamber, that if time stop is cast, everybody with the caster and everybody within, say, 10 feet or 50 feet, up to 50 feet or something, are all whisked away somewhere.
Oh, and this connects to what we talked about before. If you know the rules, contingencies are a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Just contingency spells. If someone casts time stop, then.
Yeah.
And because if you're talking really high level, if the local king is super rich and maybe he hired a 20th level wizard to protect his domain, especially as an evil overlord, and maybe he hired a neutralish wizard to do all these things. And here comes your 16th, 17th level wizard trying out a sweet little time stop spell. And like you said, oh yeah, you stop time, bam, you're teleported to the 9 hells. A portal opens up and everybody within 5 feet gets sucked into the 9 hells.
Yes.
Have fun dealing with that.
And of course, your time stop goes away because there's a in transit delay of 5 minutes, let's say. That's all it would take.
Yeah, you lost your spell, and now you fell into better yet, fall into a vat of lava.
Sure.
That's where they teleport you to a small island about 10 foot square, where you're all standing in this pit of lava and a bunch of flying demons are all around. So, yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff. Got to think about that kind of stuff. And that leads to the next one too. We talked a little bit about monsters, but you can't have the Tarrasque every time you turn around, but you do have to have some high level foes. And I do think if you're going to use high level foes for really high level characters, I have a hard time envisioning a single prime world, standard, Greyhawk, even Forgotten Realms. Though Forgotten Realms tries their best to have everything under the sun in it. I think it's hard for me to imagine you have more than one Tarrasque.
Right, because the Tarrasque is a kaiju, basically.
Yeah.
And you're just, it's not going to be like in a lot of crazy movies where you have 3, 4, 5, 6 kaijus duking it out with each other, and then some other people trying to get rid of them so they can go back. We can all go back to normal. But no, the other thing is with the Tarrasque, again, you're not going to turn the corner and there's the Tarrasque. There's going to be
that's weird. That's just weird.
It's going to be an adventure that it's possible that there's the first thing you hear about is some weird thing happening, and it's the Tarrasque waking up and lumbering around for a while it's groggy, and then at some point it just goes full on Tarrasque.
Or he's flip flopping in his bed underneath the mountain, and there's earthquakes, unnatural earthquakes. So there's a group of cultists who are trying to wake him up.
Right. So there could be some kind of words are escaping me.
That's all right.
Anyway.
Some sort of hints or clues that something big is happening that gets the attention of your high level. Am I reading your mind?
Yeah, something like that.
It gets the attention of the high level players, characters.
Right.
Now, if you wanted to go gonzo, again, I'm going to keep talking the planes up, whether you use Planescape or not. I have a book for 5e called, it's one of the supplements is Planet of the Tarrasques. Planet of the Tarrasques.
Oh boy.
So you could send them to another world where maybe there are 24 Tarrasque and they've killed almost everything. And you guys show up. Food. So like 8 of them charge you, for, you got 5 or 6, 20 plus 24th level characters, I'm not limiting to just 20th level. You could have super high level you want to play. If you want some gonzo fights, there you go.
Once a day when you kill a Tarrasque. You can blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I'm not sure if folks get that, but
that's a dig at the mythic rules from
was it? Yeah. We
Pathfinder.
Also and it was a dig at 4th edition. Remember early on we read it, one of the high level powers was once a day when you die.
Right.
It was like, how many times you dying, dude? But I
die 5 times before breakfast. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
So you can't have the Tarrasque every week. You pretty much I think you pretty much have to. I'm trying to envision a world where there's powerful things that happen and exist, but they don't just run roughshod all over the place and mush everything underneath their path. So you can't have that many Tarrasques. So you pretty much have to do some plane hopping, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you could have a ramped up version of the Tomb of Horrors where a Tarrasque himself is sleeping, full blown the Lich, and 30th level Arc Lich wizard dude, or 30th level cleric and wizard, 30th level wizard and cleric, and you want to make it a real challenge. And you can have these really cool spots. And I guess the rest of the time you could have your players, the characters be involved in maybe political machinations. I don't know how fun it would be to play magic item creation. I imagine a 27th level Volsivar might want to make a magic item or two that gets his name,
Sure.
that would be fun. And maybe then you got to send him off to quest to do it. But I'm with you. It's hard to imagine Greyhawk having enough stuff on the planet to keep a party of 20 plus level characters active and actively adventuring over and over and over again. And I know there's high level adventures, but
yeah, but high level adventures don't necessarily have to be constant combat. That would be there would be a lot of, I would think, political maneuvers. There would be a lot of research, and perhaps the adventure, even a session adventure, might on paper or might in game time could take a long time.
Yeah.
You know, you could say, well, we do this. Okay, well, a year passes.
Right.
And this is what happens after that year, and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, high level campaigns and adventures. Oh, it's when you get there, they're gonna change the way they should change the way you do things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
you can't just, okay, I'm going through that door. Oh, I'm picking locks. What roll to 20. What do I get?
Yeah.
No.
You got DC 47 lockpick. You did it. You opened it up, and now you're going to the room, and there's 4 Orcuses. I mean, after a while, dungeons don't make any sense. And I guess to me, you think maybe like they always talk about, the tiers of play. So low level, you're fighting orcs and goblins, and then mid level you ramp up to maybe giant creatures, giants and stuff. And then when you get to 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th level, you're lords of kingdoms. So you do domain play for a few game years, a few sessions, or even maybe a real whole year. You're into the birthright style machinations. But then I think if you want to keep the game going, the players are going to want to know what's going to push me to do something with my 15th level dude or my 22nd level dude. And I think you've mentioned before, I think high level play sometimes might require that it's not constant, that you have to like take breaks, go do something else, your group play a different game or someone else run something else, and just have those dudes on the shelf. And periodically,
I just thought of a great trap. I don't know what level this would be great for.
Okay.
But because we've been talking about doors a few times.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine the door, the thief, even high level, he successfully picks the lock. Good job. Well, you really needed to have the key, because with the key, it would just be a door. But since you picked the lock, the glass steel comes apart, slides it across, and now there's a slime that was contained within that glass steel, and it falls on you. Congratulations.
Right. It's literally, there's the door, it looks like a normal door, but inside, or better yet, it's a black pudding or a brown pudding,
some kind of slime.
And it looks like a door. Yeah. And so whenever you pick the lock, the door falls apart.
Right.
Slime falls on you. Yeah. There are some creatures that are evergreen. Green. What I mean by that is you can use green slime on any level character.
Yeah.
You can have all the puddings, any level character. What other monsters are truly evergreen? That might be the slimes. That might be it. Feels like demons are too. If you go old school, those magic resistances, those demons were evergreen.
Yeah.
The 12th level character did not like fighting a type 6 demon, neither did an 18th level character, because they had stupid magic resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Now your fighter could probably slice it up.
Right.
But you couldn't do much. But they also were demon summoning at will. Remember that?
Yeah.
Summon all the demons. Yeah, that's crazy.
And the demons that they summoned could summon.
Yeah. Before there was kibosh on that in 3rd edition, didn't they?
Not, I don't think till 3.5. I think 3.0 that, and I could be wrong, but I think it didn't happen until 3.5. Might not even happen until Pathfinder.
So it was demonic summon-o-matic.
Yeah.
If one demon summons one demon, I used to do that to you guys.
Oh, sure.
Summon in 3 demons, one would step back, and in his turn he'd summon. He'd summon 3 more, one would step back, and he'd summon. And you guys would be like, run! And I used to think, why don't they just take over the whole world? Summon, 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 summon. It's crazy.
Yeah, you gotta wonder.
All right. Anything else you would think is important to talk about with high level play and how to make it really work and sing?
Well,
I do want to talk about differences and additions. And
yeah.
stuff like that.
Apart from that, no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So thinking about all the additions, let's think like if you want to separate. I know original D&D. I think I mentioned this before. Tim Kask, I think, is the one that's quoted as saying, they couldn't figure out why someone want to play beyond 7th or 8th level. Because you were a quote unquote a superhero. That was the label of your character.
Yeah.
Well,
because you had more levels that you could
do. There's always more levels, right?
Yeah. Even if it's not unlimited, though back then you had more levels. Even BX went to 14. You could each go to 14.
Yeah.
And so many people say, yeah, if you get past 12th, you're God. So what's the point? And I'm like, I never felt that way.
I don't feel very godlike.
No, because we were always getting punked.
Yeah, I that's true. See, there's another piece of advice for you GMs. Punk your players. There's always something bigger around the corner. Cheat if you have to. That's what I say.
Well, sure. You wake up and all your stuff is gone.
That's what I'm talking about. Magical high-level thieves, higher than all of you, snuck in and took your stuff. Why? Because you had stuff.
And they could.
And they could.
And so what you did was you went to the local tavern, got drunk, went upstairs, and didn't, because you're dumb.
Right.
and someone took all your stuff.
Yeah.
Or they're really cute. You.
Or the classic, the really cute waitress. She gives you the bedroom eyes, and you're like, I'm down with that because you're 14. You think that's great. So you do that, and then she ends up being a succubus. I played that game.
Oh, sure.
At one point, you guys would not even contemplate the idea of having a little bedroom fun with the with the waitress. No way. She's a succubus.
All of them. They all are. Kill all the waitresses.
Kill them all. You guys going to that's a pretty waitress. We wait for her when she gets off work and we cut her head off.
Yeah.
Good job. You just killed a 1 hit point human. Good job.
You are now evil.
You're now
Change
evil.
it on your character sheet.
So change it on your character sheet. So I think 1E and 2E were similar. We kind of pointed out already how magic resistance was different.
I do hear people say that second edition is very different, and I don't remember that. I don't remember it being that way.
We had level caps on. You remember,
there were some annoyances that I had with it, which was a spell level caps, because I was like, "You're going to screw over the wizards now, even more again,
even more, yeah,
even more."
Well, you had to. That was kind of a requirement, I believe. I think Gygax demanded that as D&D went through editions, you had to make sure the wizard got worse, but that's not true. They didn't get worse. They just changed dramatically.
Right.
You would argue they did in
well, in 3rd edition,
5th edition,
they dialed it down a little bit initially. They might have corrected that later on with things, but they certainly upped the ante for clerics in 2nd edition.
Oh, and then they took it to the next level with we called it Codzilla in 3rd 3.5.
Yeah, 3rd edition turned up the dials on everybody.
Yeah, but the cleric and the wizard were godlike.
Yeah.
I can't really talk to 4th edition. 5th edition, I still think magic is super powerful, and I think a lot of classes just have tons of magical abilities, which I guess is okay, but part of me misses characters. I kind of like my fighter, my rogue and ranger, even my paladin. Well, that's my paladin, but barbarian. I like them to be a little more mundane in their abilities. Now, granted, they can't be too mundane at 20th level or they can't hang.
Right.
But I don't, I wouldn't mind if the fighter was just rolling with a magic sword and a magic shield and just wasn't like flying on a carpet and rings of teleport and doing all the magic-y things. But he's got to be able to do something to keep up with the wizard, or he feels like he's just an idiot.
Well, in 1st edition, don't know about 2nd so much because I can't remember how the treasure tables worked in that game.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1st edition, there were lots of stuff that only the fighter could use.
Yes, magic items.
Most magic, I think, so there was a lot that only the fighter could use. And
belts, strength and stuff. I think fighters and clerics and thieves in 1st edition could use
them. So I wonder if it was at 1st edition or 2nd.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah,
but I know. But I think that when it came to the miscellaneous objects, maybe the wizard kind of took back their thunder a little bit. There were quite a few, rods, staves, and wands. Well, staves and wands were primarily wizard items. I mean, there were some cleric, but they were mostly wizard.
Yeah, there weren't too many. Yeah, the wizards got a lot of stuff. That's okay. I mean,
Sure.
There was what I'm trying to find here. I don't know if it was before the stats, miscellaneous magic. Oh, here we go. Where are the belts of giant strength? Was it called girdle?
Girdle.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to.
Yes, he's trying to decide find out whether it was cleric, fighter, thief, or just fighter.
Yeah. It doesn't actually say this belt imbues. Gives the wearer giant. I think second edition, everybody could use it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it must have been cleric, fighter, thief in
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, and I know in OD&D there was a Warhammer. The Warhammer was +3, but only in the hands of a dwarf. Anybody else was +1. It was like the dwarven thrower, I think.
Dwarven thrower, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some. I like the charm of exclusive items.
Sure.
I get you could have a wizard who's got a belt of storm giant strength, but and I
Right.
think Tensor had a belt of stone giant strength, but he was known for Tensor's transformation. Tensor liked the idea. He had 18 strength as a wizard. He wanted to mix it up. So I guess you can do that, but I guess I like the idea of some items, and that could help balance out, and that does kind of throw a monkey wrench in my idea of fighters not being too magical though.
Well, but their magic isn't like unless you get their magic isn't the magic that the fighter has access to is mostly defensive or weaponry.
Yeah.
But couldn't they use the helm of
Brilliance?
Helm of Brilliance?
Yeah.
Basically Fireball City.
Oh yeah, it had all these gems and diamonds, and you could do it had multiple gems of fireballs, multiple gems of, I think it was prismatic spray was in there. It was really
But look out if someone knew what it was and they could make it backfire on you.
Yeah, I think they could I think if you got hit by a fireball and it had to make a saving throw and it failed, all the gems below it. I kill you and all your friends, dude.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I tell you what was funny. I tell you what's interesting too. Do you think that I can't speak too well to OD&D, and it's been a while since we played the lower levels, but Beckme, I would put Beckme in first edition and second edition. Wouldn't you say those games, magic items and high level, kind of made the character?
You mean having magic items at high
Correct.
level?
So if we have four 15th level fighters in first edition D&D, they weren't that different. Probably not. I mean, you can say the stats are a little different, but you probably don't have a 15th level fighter with a 13 strength.
Right.
He's probably pretty BA, 17, 18 percentile something. So 1842, another has 1810, another has 17, one has 1896. So that's a little different. But the magic items really made the man. I mean, even though you could argue a 17th level wizard without a single magic item was still someone to be reckoned with.
Oh, sure.
I mean, you probably don't like it. You'd like to be protected by bracers and other things. What about third edition? I know magic items definitely did things for you.
It wasn't that much different as far as that difference goes. Wizards could get away with fewer magic items.
Yes.
Especially at high level when armor class didn't matter a whole lot anyway.
The build game was so big. Couldn't you build like a 2-weapon fighter dude versus a great sword wielder if they had even similar magic items? You could definitely see a difference between them.
I think so. Well, great sword wielding was
superior,
fairly superior to 2-weapon fighting, in my opinion. I mean, there's folks that'll say 2 weapons, you get 2 weapons, 2 chances to hit, you'll do more damage. You usually miss with your offhand attacks, especially when you first start out in that.
Yes, the penalty like -4, -2, or whatever it was.
Penalties are pretty heavy, and you don't have a whole lot of stuff that will counter that. I mean, you can. I can't remember specifically, but starting out just a great sword wielder, it's all bonuses. There's no penalties that you have to counteract, and no feats that you have to take. You can just roll
if you use
out
power attack. If you use power attack, you would lose points.
Right. I'm just saying you don't need
to
just wield your sword.
Right.
in the power attack notwithstanding,
Right.
I mean, you're doing
Sure.
more damage because you're doing strength and a half.
Yes.
So, you know, with the dual weapon wielder, you get half your strength on your other attack. So if you hit with both, you get an extra die of damage. But great swords usually are 2d6, and if you're using two weapons, it's usually a d8 and a d4. So
Late first edition, early second, it was the reverse, wasn't it? Wasn't the two weapon guy more superior with all the attacks?
I think so, because you didn't have the strength and a half.
Nope.
You just had strength.
Right.
And most people didn't have, I mean, 18th percentile or higher. So you're usually only getting +1 or 2 with your strength anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you got to real high level, I mean, you could do, if you got a two weapon wielder with the belt of storm giant strength, and he's hasted, and he's specialized,
or double specialized. Yeah.
Yeah, or double specialized if you're doing, or whatever, mastery it with Beckme. I mean, you're Ginsu, man. You are just shredding people.
Right.
Yeah. So there definitely were some differences, and a lot of it's had to do with the design of the game, I think. I guess I've always wanted, on a side note, I've always wished fighters could be somehow relatively balanced. Maybe that's not a thing. Maybe some styles of fighting should be better than others. I don't know. Maybe.
I've thought about that too. I mean, it's a game though. In real life, if you got somebody armored up, you have two people armored up, you want a big sword, you want a big weapon. You don't want a small dagger.
No,
you really don't.
No.
I mean, you might be able to find the chink in their armor, but by the time you've found that chink, the other person's already beat you to death. Even if he hasn't necessarily penetrated, he's beat you to death.
Yeah, and if he has any kind of, if he's moderately skilled, even if you're a great dagger dude, you're like awesome, but he's pretty good fighter. He's got reach on you, but we're going down a different rabbit hole. What about other games? And I listed particular, just one off the top of my head: Savage Worlds, 13th Age, Warhammer, or we could even talk about more, less D&D type games, high level play in something like, I don't know, Shadowrun, which that's magic-y. How about something like Rifts? Well, that's crazy from the get-go. Or something like Aliens.
I really don't. Yeah, I don't have that much experience playing high level in other systems. Or yeah, I don't.
We did experience on your birthday game where I think you guys played 10th level 13th Age games. Now 13th, a big credit, we've been kind of dogging 13th Age. One of its bonus advantages is high level play is pretty much as smooth as low level play.
Yeah.
There isn't that sticky wicket that people say D&D becomes unplayable after 12th level or after 10th level. And you can make some arguments that it's more challenging. It just depends on how dedicated you are and how much you like wild, crazy stuff. You could say, I don't like the idea of traveling to the plains. I don't like the idea of fighting Tarrasque and flying around like a superhero. I get it. But if you do, the game could still be considered it's very challenging. Whereas 13th Age, that's something where if I said, I know guys that know 13th Age just barely, like Cabin Con, and if I said I'm running a one shot for 10th level characters, I'd have no issue bringing in 5 or 6 10th level 13th Age characters. It'd be a little slower, but it wouldn't be all that hard to play.
No.
13th Age is really nice like that.
It's very predictable.
Very predictable.
But,
Savage World, similarly.
Yeah, being able to just throw down, very easy. It's very attractive to a lot of people.
Folks that are out there, then, if you played Warhammer a lot, I don't know how. I think Warhammer originally first edition was based on percentiles. What happens when you get 100+% to attack? I mean, do you become just unbelievably unstoppable? I don't know how that game works. Or people that have played Shadowrun, which I've played like twice in my life, 2 sessions. I'm not sure how that would work. I know Savage Worlds and 13th Age are both very manageable because there's just not the 13th Age does these sort of big chunks of power, but everything jumps with you.
Yeah.
It's a challenge rating, and they probably do the best version of challenge ratings, even though I think they're too kind to the players. But they give them too many. It's all weighted for them to win. And but Savage Worlds not so much. That's very swingy. You got that toughness number, and then your armor. And if someone penetrates your armor and they roll good damage, a lowly goblin can annihilate your legendary paladin. in
Yeah.
one shot. It
Yeah.
can happen.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah, that swinginess is there. Any other games? Like, I don't know, Rift seems like it's high level from the get-go.
Yeah, you start out pretty competent at your job, I believe, and
Yeah.
then your adventuring job, and
Mhm.
and the leveling up is much flatter, I think, than in any of the D&D games.
Yeah, and I guess it probably depends. It'd be interesting those that have played more of the standard Rifts rules versus we played. I'm pretty fond of Savage Worlds Rifts, and it's like a high-powered version of Savage Worlds, but it's still pretty manageable. I think it's just pretty high-powered.
Yeah, we've gotten high level in well, high-ish. I don't know that have we played legendary? I don't think so.
Highest you got was when we ran Necessary Evil. You guys got to heroic tier,
Right.
which was one step from legendary.
Right, which was pretty boss.
Oh,
So
you guys are awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
it took us a while to get there.
Oh, we played solidly every other week through most of us through a summer and probably a good chunk of the fall. And I probably leveled you a little fast, but we wanted to get through the adventure. And
Savage Worlds is a faster game, though.
it is a faster game. We played pretty hard. We didn't play 4-hour sessions. We were playing closer to 6 every time.
Oh yeah.
Well, that was pretty fun. It was a good thing. Do you I know you like high level playing D&D for sure. And you and I have a lot of experience playing high level. I mean, I'm comfortable. I don't care what version of D&D. I don't feel any need to cap my campaigns. I'm ready for you guys to be 18th level, 27th level. We can play it. But what about other games? Do you think you'd enjoy other games even more at high levels? Are there any games you can think of where you're like, I don't think I want to play high level?
I don't think so. I think I would like to, if the game has different levels or tiers or whatever that game might call it, I'd like to explore that game to its limits and then decide, because you're not going to know until you've played it. That's why I think with D&D, I'm very comfortable playing high level.
Yeah, we
played it enough to where we know we're comfortable with it and we like it. You might find through playing, say, Warhammer, fantasy version, not the 40K.
Right.
You might get to a point where you're like, the higher end of this game isn't so fun, or some other games, Legend of the Five Rings, maybe, or whatever, what have you. But you need to play it to be able to make that determination. And I haven't played that many at high level. I've played lots of games in an introductory fashion, but few to any sustained amount.
I would ask folks that listen to us if there's some questions I'd love to hear people comment on. What do you think of high level play? What games have you played to high level? And do you have some games? And for a lot of folks, it might be D&D. Are there some games where just high level, certain levels just get no fun for you? It'd be interesting to hear what those are for people. I know Joe and I D&D are like, let's just do it. Go from the beginning to the end, and the end is when we put the dice down.
Right.
So, yeah.
And we don't necessarily feel limited to just games with levels. So if you have games where you just continue to improve over time and you add skills or whatever, if you play the characters a long time and they get really good at their game, that's kind of like high level. But a lot of games may not, even though you're really good, it may not be high powered. So what we're talking about is high powered. Yeah. Right. Lots of magic,
lots of cool abilities, psionic powers, crazy,
plane traveling, lots of big monsters, powerful monsters. Yeah.
I guess one thing we didn't touch on at all, but I think that's probably outside of the purview of what we usually do, is big massive battles. That's a thing you could be a part of in a high level game.
Oh, sure.
Not even too high level, actually, probably 8th or 9th level, or if you want to be a foot soldier, 3rd and 4th level.
Right, because 8th, 9th level, maybe you're getting your domain, your fortress, your tower, your guild, however you do that, and at some point you might get into mass combat and political intrigue at the same time. That would be fun.
Religious wars, religious systems that turn violent. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about playing at high level there? The things you need to consider?
I recommend it to everyone. Play high level,
Everybody, including me. He recommends that I run high level for him.
especially him.
All right. All right. How about we boogie over to like it, love it, or leave it?
Yes,
Is it my turn to go first, or did I go first last time?
I don't remember.
How about I go first? Joe looks tired. I'm gonna help him out here.
Joe is tired.
How about this? Joe, how do you feel about movie reviews? Critical reviews.
Oh, I can leave him.
Really?
I mean, it depends what you're talking about. If it's Randy sees a movie and tells Joe, hey, that's a great movie, then I will hold that in much higher esteem. But if you're talking,
Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes has reviews on it, I'm like, I could care less.
What about somebody you like on YouTube? Say critical. I like Critical Drinker. I think he's hilarious. But sometimes they do that for kind of entertainment purposes.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Mostly leave it. You would say
in between, I would say that would be in between a person I know, a personal friend. Then I can know what to base a judgment off of, as far as movies that you like compared to movies I like.
Right.
And for me and you, we're pretty close. So if
Pretty
you
close.
say you like it, it's a good chance I may.
Yeah.
But you're much more forgiving for movies than I am.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm much less forgiving than my wife and Philip. They're more forgiving too than I am. You
Right.
are probably one of the harshest movie critics that I know. You're pretty demanding. Like the new Dune, I think you need to watch it, but you'll probably find some things you don't like about it. But I have too. I mean, there's some things about it I don't like, but I think it's pretty solid effort. But I think it's a must. They have to do a sequel. Okay, they have to. If they don't, then it's-
Yeah, I've
waste of
heard
time.
that they ended it in a weird spot.
Dude, it's a third of the way through the book at best, which is kind of weird. But anyway, onward. What do you think about time travel? Yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
If we're talking time travel as depicted in most movies and comic books and stuff,
Mhm.
I usually don't like it because they always break time travel rules.
Right. And they almost can't help it.
Right.
Have you seen a movie? Has anybody out there, have you seen a movie or read a book where time travel was done really well?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so because even the very first one, they can still be good movies. They can still be fun to watch. You just have to say, okay, well, they're gonna screw everything up and not really make any sense. But I think the one that might come closest would be the very old one, the Time Machine.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Because while he goes forward, he goes backwards and then forwards, but he's only an observer in the past. He only observes the past, and then he goes to the far future, and of course stuff happens at that point, and then he comes back and then goes back. But that's closest because he makes very little impact on his own timeline or anybody he knows, really.
Yeah.
About the only thing he does is go to the future and change things from that point on. So he doesn't go to just before some bad things happening and change that. He just goes back and forth in his time machine to get things. But I think that's probably the closest because most time travel related stories involve the characters going back in time and changing things permanently.
Right.
And it's always, it doesn't make any sense because if you change the thing, the only way they would really be able to get away with it is if they go in the past, create a new timeline, or the people that or the people that travel back in time are from an alternate timeline, and
Right.
their timeline gets destroyed
Right.
in the process of whatever they do.
Yeah.
So I've seen some of that, but the movies end up not being that great. But for the most part, time travel in movies and TV ends up, not being that great. So I'd rather they do different stories, but a lot of people love time travel.
On a tangent, if you could time travel, would you? And where would you go? Not specifically, but would you go forward? Would you go backwards? Or would you I don't want to do that?
I would, if I went forward, I would go forward in small increments, because if you go too far forward, you might end up in the blackness of nothing and then die. So
I see. Because I have to admit,
I think the past, it would be cool to go and especially in our country's past, just to see how it matches up with our history books.
Correct. I have to admit, a little part of me, and if I could affect something, this is so selfish, but I'd want to go back to 1938 when Action Comics 1 was the very not just for money. It would be money. I'd get 2 copies. I'd take my 10 cents. I'd have to work, because if I handed them a dime now, they'd be like, what is this?
Correct. You would have to have a dime from the past.
I had to work probably a week to get a dime. Not quite. And then I would purchase 2 copies, 1 to sell and 1 to keep. But that's a little selfish. And I think I would prefer, though, if I could time travel, I'm going to go backwards, because forward, I think there's too much danger in my mind for that. I don't know what happened, more so to me. I also wouldn't want to be handcuffed. And by that, I mean, I wouldn't want to be able to change the time. I can have no effect on things. I don't want to be an observer.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Go back.
Safety precaution. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you mess with something, you never know what effect it could have to change your ability to have gone in the past, and there would be some sort of.
What if you're stuck? You got stuck because of that,
or just died.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What if you never born? Yeah, that's an interesting conundrum. Okay.
And then if you ceased to exist, then you would never have gone in the past in the first place.
Right, the dangerous loop.
Yeah. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, that's why I understood your. Did you say leave it initially? Was it leave it?
I like it I like the idea of it, but
execution,
as a story element, leave it.
Yeah. Okay, last one. We're staying on the question now. You're going to go too deep on this. Religion, just the idea of religion.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's built into our DNA.
I think so too.
Yeah. You can deny it all you like. It's there.
Yeah. All right. What you got for me, bud?
All right. Gender swaps in movies. Speaking of Dune.
Okay. Speaking of Dune, leave it. But the Dune one was not that bad. I wasn't that put off by Dune that much. The lady did a good job as Liet Kynes. She was fine. It wasn't too pushy. Dune was not super woke, but generally, I don't get the point. Like, why did Starbuck become a girl in the new Babylon 5? I don't new. Here I am talking like it was new, but the most recent Babylon.
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica, which I just started watching Babylon 5. But yeah, I don't see the point unless you're doing something like in Marvel. What if Wolverine were a female? What if Superman were, black?
Sure.
I don't mind that, but I don't like just swapping in the movies to swap. It's just, I don't know. It feels like just a pander move. So we generally leave it.
Okay. Bottled water.
Never drank it for many, many years. I do like it now. In fact, I drink it more than I do tap water. I don't know why I do. I shouldn't. Tap water's fine. I would say like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Old houses.
I would say love it, except that I don't seek them out. But man, would I love to be able to go into old houses and attics and seek out Action Comics 1. See where my mind is, dude? I just have this. I mean, I remember there's a story Debbie told me about, it was on Facebook recently. She found something about some couple that was renovating an old house they bought, and they pulled open they tore down a wall, and they found a copy of Action Comics 1. And it was like a 2.3. The cover was barely on it. And they sold it for 180 grand.
Oh boy.
Which is cool. But I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, if you had, now I would be right now, I would probably still sell it, because I would be more than out of debt. I would be like, whoa, looking good at 180 grand popped in my
Sure.
pocket. But a few years later, if something's all paid off and I found that, I would not sell it, because that would be a copy that I could keep and read, and there'd be something cool about it. But probably it's something, I say that, but I would sell it. I really want to find 2 copies, as I said. But old houses are neat. Their designs are interesting to look at. When people like your house, you have a pretty old house, and you have that little staircase. Don't you have that little staircase? What's called it's in your kitchen. What's it called? A servant's entrance or servant?
Yes. I mean, it seems
it
like
was at one time, right?
Yeah. I mean, because there's on the second floor, there used to be, but it's been boarded up, a door going out, an exit door on the second floor. There probably was at some point a stairwell.
Did you have superheroes that lived there? They can go out the second floor and fly off?
Sure.
I'm
sure that's what
Justice
it was.
League used to live at Joe's house.
Yeah.
Justice Society.
Right. So I'm sure that it had something to do with that. But
Sure.
yeah, the staircase going downstairs, you can take one direction going into the foyer and into the living room, and the other direction goes straight into the kitchen, and you can get into the kitchen from downstairs as well. But yeah, it's kind of a weird setup.
I do like them. It's nearly level. I think there's some fascinating things about old houses. I'd love to kind of see all the cool designs in Victorian era. And it's not that I'm not particularly knowledgeable about them, but I do think they're interesting. I think it's the allure of, not to keep harping on Action Comics, but just finding something old and neat that's maybe valuable or just cool, an
Right.
old silver dollar, somewhere.
Yeah. And the house has very small closets, none downstairs on the first floor, no closets there.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. No, it's not.
No, it's interesting.
It's interesting, but it's
not
pretty,
cool for
no, it
annoying.
stinks. It's annoying. There's it's very little closet space.
Okay. I think that's about it on Like It, Love It, or Leave It, don't you?
It is it.
Okay. So we're going to slide into our last segment here. We're going to do Dig This Setting, but I have a different plan than before. I'm calling it a case study. And so I'm going to use a campaign setting that I used through 3.0 and 3.5 called the Seven Spheres campaign. And I want to analyze a little bit with our discussion points, where we talked about preparing for high level play, understanding characters, limitations of the rules, and things like that. This campaign was 3.25 years long. I saw about 11 or more players throughout the life of the campaign. I think no more than 6 or 7 at the table at one time. I don't think Joe, you weren't there for the whole time, but you came about midway and then stayed till the end.
Right.
And we took the levels. I know the campaign started at level 4, and then we took it to 25 plus. And so right from the beginning, the Seven Spheres, I think, well, first of all, you played most of it. From what you remember, did you enjoy that high level action that we had in that game?
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I think it was one of the most satisfying campaigns I ever ran, because it actually ended in a little bit like the way I had planned from the beginning, that I thought the characters will do this. So the premise was I used the idea of a god of law and a god of chaos. And the god of chaos, this very powerful god of chaos, decided he found a way to destroy the multiverse. To do that, he had to commit suicide. And when he did, the god of law was like, oh no, I can't let everything be destroyed. So he used his own power, siphoned off his own power. He died too, but he saved the multiverse into 7 inverted hollow worlds called the spheres, the 7 spheres. And so imagine these planets that are inverted, and inside is a world. And in between the planets was these 7 spheres was space called the void. And I set up from the beginning this idea. There was this group of wizards called the Void Walkers, and they had void ships they could use, kind of like spelljammers, to travel between worlds. Each world had its own kind of feel. There was one called Dark Sphere, which was actually controlled by Asmodeus. He had control of all evil creatures that survived the destruction of the multiverse. So he had demons, devils, demodans, any outer planar evil beast, even Slotty, were under his control. He had brought, and Dark Sphere was that place. I forgot the name of the one we began on, the world we began on, spent most of our time on. And my plan from the beginning was for the characters to play a role in reconstituting the multiverse. So it was, I kind of riffed off the Elric saga. I thought I would reverse it, where imagine if you're in a world that's essentially been destroyed, a universe or multiverse has been destroyed, and the goal is to put it back together. And so that was a plan I had for, I mean, that goal by itself alone, it calls for really high level characters.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it ended up, you guys all ended up becoming gods, or even from a Forgotten Realms viewpoint, kind of over gods of this multiverse.
Right. So yeah, because we, by that point, let's see, we had our last adventure as mortals, and then we pretty much just talked about how things would go from that point.
If you recall, we sat down and played a game of Three Dragon Annie, which is the card game that Wizards had produced. And I made a role-playing experience where the game was kind of having these 7 characters and Asmodeus, who made it to the table. It was pretty cool, due to another character's actions or inaction. And which is very interesting. So we had 8 big players that were playing a card game for who got what quote unquote portfolio in the new multiverse.
Right.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I felt like every character got to really high level. I think I made plans at one point, 18th, 19th, 20th level. I kind of stopped using the rules because the epic level handbook didn't satisfy.
Right.
So I gave you guys, like, every time you leveled up, I gave you 3 choices, and I initially outlined it. And then eventually by choices, what that meant was they could pick 3 abilities, or they could boost a stat. And we had, I mean, Volsvar had, like, your wizard, he had like what, a 60 intelligence or something by the end?
Something like that. It was pretty high.
Your DCs were ridiculous.
Right.
Your saving throws. But I mean, you guys, but my plan was you guys were going to become the new gods of this brand new reconstituted multiverse. But I had this plan, and I had thought about what the characters could do. I remember one fight, you probably remember this because your character was kind of remember that one where you died like 3 times in the battle?
Sure.
We literally had one fight that lasted like 5 hours. Now, that may not sound like fun, but we had a good time doing it.
Yeah. And
it was pretty insane. And I thought, I can't remember all the adventures, but I do know that at least the first 3 pieces of advice that I gave today, I planted seeds. I mean, just the concept of the campaign was high level. And I knew that I was going to have to challenge these super high level characters. I don't know if you remember this, near the end of the campaign, you fought this devil that had one time had challenged Asmodeus, and he had been struck down. And people that have played 3rd edition or 3X will understand this. It's all about economy of action. So imagine 7 24th level characters, and these dudes are, like I said, Joe's DCs were in the 50s. And I created this creature you guys fought. Remember, he had displacement at 75%. So 3/4 of attacks would miss no matter what you did. And he had high level. So I created powers that I laid on top of monsters to even give these guys a chance. And they beat this dude in Mortal Kombat, but it was like they'd have fighters have like, they'd have 4 attacks and more than that. And they'd lose. I say, don't roll 3 of them and just roll which one you get. So first roll a D4, you get your first attack has a chance to hit. So that's how we did it. And so it was a little frustrating, but it was kind of cool. It made the fight really challenging.
Yeah. Made it interesting.
Yeah. And so I think things like that, that's what I mean, like playing outside the rules. I thought it's been too long to remember the character motivations, but I don't recall he who casts time stop first wins. We had enough high level shenanigans that was not always a win button.
Right.
And so, but it took a lot of effort. I mean, I was worn out. It took me, even now, I think I suffer a little bit from that now, because I used to be the guy that could run campaigns from the beginning to the end, and I did a lot of starting and stopping, and still do.
Right.
It changed me. It was so demanding.
I think the other thing is I played, I didn't play a wizard.
Mm-mm.
I played you let me play a magister from our Unearthed Arcana Evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And Time Stop might not have been in that spell repertoire.
True. But Debbie played a psionicist from 3.5, and she had time acceleration and a few other abilities that were pretty close to, but she didn't have time stop. So that might have been the reason it never showed up.
Yeah.
We had a character who was a high level rogue shadow dancer with a shadow dragon mount. We had this fighter. Our buddy Greg D played this fighter who was like, he had magically been enhanced to, like, I want to say he was huge. He was physically, no, not huge. He was physically large, but he attacked as if he was a gargantuan or colossal creature because he had all these feats. And I mean, I just let him go crazy. I know at one time he did something like 2,000 points of damage on a couple of crits in a round of combat. And it was crazy stuff, but it was pretty cool. There was a story we had going. You guys were focusing on it. And it was interesting. Those Void Walkers I created, I had originally planned for them to be allies. That was my idea. But as we played, it made more sense for them to become villains. Plus, I had some of the lower level peon do something that kind of made you guys mad. And I was like, oh, this could be a good villain, because they were powerful. So this guild of wizards, the Void Walkers, had kind of control of travel between the spheres. And so I think we fully harnessed the quote unquote the power of magic, and we let people go. I mean, your Magister got to do the craziest crap you could think of.
It was pretty gonzo.
Yeah. But in the end, and it played out well. I mean, rarely does a campaign that lasts 3 years end up, you actually reconstituted the multiverse. Some folks have mentioned that they would, and they mentioned shortly thereafter, I would love to play in the world that you guys created. I would need to go find my notes, but rebuild that multiverse and run it, and run a campaign where Volsavar is the god of magic.
Right.
That's how it ended, right?
Yeah.
And Seeker was the god of fighters. He was a god of war. That was the Seeker, was that big Goliath fighter dude that Greg D had. And so we all had these, our characters would become a part. You could actually have a new character that would worship your old character. That's kind of cool.
That would be fun.
I always kind of dreamed of that. But I think for me, even I think way back, except for maybe the campaign that I ran, it's hard to remember early ones when you were around, but once you went to the military, I did run a campaign in second edition when we first learned about Planescape. We played that. We had characters go from low level all the way to my original Greyhawk campaign. Well, not original, but one of them from first level to like 16th, 17th level. And one character became a factal in the city of Sigil, which was pretty cool, ahead of the Doomguard. But I think the Seven Spheres is probably my favorite campaign I've ever run.
It lasted a long time. It had a lot of the earmarks of stuff that we've been talking about. Lasted a long time, went high level. You got to stretch the limits of the game into unknown territory.
We sure did. I mean, we could have leveled like we did. Like the epic level handbook was just a little, it's like we had 47th level, 57th level, you get another +1. I was like, screw it. I want you guys to be different.
Yeah, it was just more of the same.
Yeah. And when you guys eventually, those 3 choices you got, I stopped outlining them. I just said, hey, Joe, what do you want your wizard to be able to do? I like people to cast this spell as a reaction. Okay. I don't want to have to memorize first, second, third level spells. Okay. So you were pretty awesome.
And a lot of that stuff didn't end up mattering a lot.
Yeah, but
so I didn't have to use second level slots.
Right.
It's powerful, but in the scope of our game, it didn't make much of a difference. Now the reaction thing did.
Yeah, I forgot what you had something that was it your damage shield?
The damage shield. Yeah.
Oh, that was so awesome. But that was good. It kept you alive.
Yeah.
I mean, there were plenty of attacks that were doing hundreds of damage. You
I
needed to
think
block.
I think the reason I took that was because of dying 3 times. I was like, yeah, I need this. Especially because the summoning, one of the things that we figured out from that game was summoning at that level was irrelevant.
Yes.
Because the monsters you can summon got just instantly destroyed.
Killed.
Yeah. And they actually they provided very little buffer between you and the enemy.
I mean, you think oh man, I'm summoning monster 9 and I'm summoning, you know, 4 blue slotty. That sounds awesome. Yeah, they're all dead the next round.
Yeah.
There's a creature focused on them. Rip. Your slotty, you're dead.
Yeah.
Because I was homebrewing monsters. Our little discussion if I was homebrewing or house ruling. That was funny at Legion of Myth.
Yeah.
But whatever, I was homebrewing monsters. I had to adjust for your abilities. And so, you know, armor class
the biggest
73 was
strong,
one out of
the biggest strongest thing I could summon. It got caught in the area of effect thing that killed Volsivar over and over again.
Yeah.
It was fire. It was dragon breath. It was a dragon. Dragon breathed on us. Yeah.
Yeah, that was and that one scene where they fought this dragon. It was the last scion of Tiamat. It was the only creature that had any blood related to Tiamat, the multi-headed dragon goddess who survived the destruction of the multiverse. He was, when I say scion, I mean Scion, child of Tiamat, and it was a colossal plus massive dragon. And Joe's character, we knew they were fighting it, and Joe's Volsivar character made the party immune to like 8 of the 9 different elemental damage types in 3rd edition. You had them immune to it. There was only one. Well, this dragon, I built this dragon before. He had the ability to change his breath weapon of any type he wanted. And I just randomly rolled to see if it was, he's got a 1 in 9 or 1 in 10, whatever it was, chance to be the one type. And I literally rolled it. So Joe was, at first he was like, what? I was like, dude, I am not cheating. I literally rolled the one type you didn't protect against. And I obliterated the party. My wife did a timing deceler, went backwards in time. You guys tried it again and you obliterated him.
Yeah.
I mean, one spell. So, but it was pretty wild. We had some pretty great times. And I think just allowing yourself to let the characters go crazy, let them have really, that high end at 25, 26. I think good players, that idea of choices, give me some ideas for cool abilities your character gets from notching up from 24 to 25. It can be managed, but in the 3rd edition environment, it's a lot of work though, wasn't it?
Well, I think since then and after that, I think that we have developed as players and you as a DM to the point where even if we got to the high levels in, let's say, a different version of D&D,
yeah,
we wouldn't need it to be that gonzo.
No,
it would be, it would still be powerful and high powered, but it
Right.
wouldn't be as crazy as all that.
no.
And
I
I think it got really crazy when we went above 20th level and we were kind of, going by and just making stuff up.
Yeah.
It got kind of crazier then.
Yeah.
But some of the crazier numbers, like my character is really high intelligence and whatnot. I mean,
Yeah.
that stuff that wouldn't happen again. It just would
No.
not happen in that way again.
No, it was very, but it was meant, I think, as a story. What makes it special is your characters were meant to be the ones that quote
Yes.
unquote save the multiverse. So you are legendary now, God. So you are truly epic mythological tales. So it does, as gonzo as it is, a lot of mythology is gonzo.
Sure.
Characters that live in the new constituted multiverse would hear stories. Well, when Volsivar was just immortal, he could do this. Well, I'm a 7th level wizard. Why can't I do this, dude? You're nothing compared to what Volsivar was. Right. So yeah.
Volsivar was 7th level. He threw a rope around the sun and drug it behind him and used it for his fireballs.
That's right. He just whipped it around like a cowboy and lassoed. I lassoed the sun. You're ready for some fire in your butt. Yeah. So yeah. So I'm not trying to say, and again, those out there, I'm not trying to say Randy runs the best campaign ever, though I do. It's just that no, I think it does. I think you can do that. And in a system like 3.5, it was a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I hope in Mud Sword it's not as much work. And like Joe said, it's probably just not going to be as gonzo as that, but it still can be really fun. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. If you had to rank it, extra small to 2X, where would you put it? That campaign setting.
I'm kind of vacillating between XL and 2X.
Ooh, that's pretty high.
Definitely XL.
Yeah, I feel like at one time it would have been 2X. If you'd have asked me the day after we wrapped it up, I would have literally said that is my absolute favorite RPG setting of all time. In fact, I felt like at one time, I think that was part of the drawback. I felt like, where can I go from here?
Right.
I can't match this. What I got to do is tell a different type of high level, not so gonzo.
Right.
I think I'm with you. Mine's more like XL. Definitely XL. I don't know how to play it any time, but I did love it. It was lots of good memories. So
Yes.
yeah, for us, but that's no one else has.
And that's the other great thing about a long-standing campaign.
Yeah.
Whether it gets high level or not, but high level, if you have a really long campaign, you're probably going to get at least a mid-level.
Oh, I would hope so.
Maybe the beginning of high level.
Yeah.
Unless you're some people, and after 15 years, yeah, we're still 7th level. Whatever.
I think who was it? Greenwood's campaign. They've like played for years and years and years, and they're like 8th or 9th levels.
Yeah. But the good thing about that is you make a lot of good memories, and you hang out with your friends for a long time. So it's great in that way too.
Yeah, this is definitely more of something for us, but I wanted to talk about it just in terms of that a high level campaign can work. Now, this may not be attractive to other people, but to those that played, the 11 or so players that played it, I don't think anybody would say that was the suckiest campaign I ever played in.
Right.
No, but they might have hated it and just never told me. But I think we had a good time.
From what I remember of people talking about it after the fact, we were all like, "Oh, we'd love to do that again."
Yeah. And we could. I think I'm confident we could reach the coolness heights of that game with, like you said, without going totally crazy.
Right.
Again, and to defend people like Greenwood or those that peter out at 10th or 11th level. I mean, what if you played a game at first? You played first edition D&D. Those experience point charts are brutal at double digits, millions. So if you're playing the game, I mean, I got the monster manual right here, and you say, "Oh, we just killed 6 Valors." It's worth looking at it. 6 type 6 demons. What is the experience point about? Oh, they don't have it written down here. I thought they did.
No. What edition are you looking at?
First edition.
It's in the DMG.
Oh, okay. So I know it wouldn't be 6 million experience points, so everybody in the party can level at 12th level.
No, but you also get, in that version of the game, you got experience points for treasure.
True. Yeah. You did, and you might get 6 million gold. I mean, if it was a Gygax adventure, you probably would. Okay, I think we're about done here.
Yeah.
All right. So if you'd like to support our show, please help get the word out. That's probably the best way to do it. Check out our website at biggestgeekespodcast.com. If you feel like supporting us financially, hit that tab, float us a little cash. But more importantly, share with your friends, as Joe liked to say, or your enemies, anybody that likes to listen to RPG discussion. We'd appreciate it. Still on Odyssey and YouTube. Joe is doing the yeoman's work and getting the YouTube stuff up there. I think you're breaking into chunks still, aren't you?
I did not do that with the last episode.
Okay.
So I need to get it chunked out, and then I'll make sure this one is.
Let's don't tell him that. Joe didn't say that. He did it, so it's okay.
We'll fix it in post.
Fix it in post, yeah. So, and if you rate us on your favorite podcatcher, we'd appreciate it. Our email is thegeeks@biggestgeekespodcast.com. Please send us emails or drop us a line on the Anchor app or any other, or at the website. You can go to the Biggest Geekest website, right, and leave a voice message about a minute long. We'd love to hear about your experiences with high level, your opinion on high level. What do you consider high level, and how playable is it in your opinion?
Actually, the voice thing is at Anchor.
Anchor, thank you. Anchor.fm/biggestgeekus. There you go. Thank you, Joe. I need to write that in there. And we'd like you to check out some of the podcasts at the end that we have in there, ranging everywhere from the Red Dice Diaries all the way to Legend of Myth. It's that list. Joe's got those links in there.
Legion
of Myth. Thank you. I call them Legend. I keep saying that.
They are legends.
They are legends in our own minds. So this is Randy.
And this is Joe.
Remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.